Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela from Flutes.com. As many of you know, we have a lot of videos here on YouTube, and today we decided why not read some of the comments that some of our nice YouTube subscribers have left for us, and thought I might answer a few questions in the process. So, kind of quick here today, not much prattle. Anyway, David G, just a general question he had. He said he made a cedar flute and can't get it to sound right. It's got a 3/16 size holes, 1-inch center bore, and it's a 5-hole flute. The top 2 holes don't work and others sound terrible, sometimes very low and sometimes very high. I have to blow very hard to get the first 2 holes to make a sound, and when they do, they're very high. What did I do wrong? Well, it's a very general question indeed, and certainly there are a number of things that could be going on there causing the problem. It sounds like the size of the flute is probably a little too long. And when the flute is too long for the diameter and for the hole spacings, it can cause back pressure, just like putting your finger over this hole. And putting your finger over the hole causes it to play really kind of wacky. And it could also be, depending on the material that we're using here to make this flute, if it's not hollow in the right places, that could be part of the problem. So there's some things that you probably want to look over with regards to the length. If you find any of our schematics, whether it be in our book or some of our videos here on YouTube, you'll probably find one that matches the size diameter flute that you're making with the position of the holes where they're at. Now, if you used some other measurement for the holes, I can't guarantee that they'll be in exactly the right place, but I can guarantee you I could probably make it play. So if you get a chance, send me a picture on our website. If you just email us at bluebear@flutes.com. You can find us there. You can also contact us through the contact form on bluebearflutes.com. However, if you send me that picture, I could probably tell you right away, snapping my fingers. So the next question, I believe, is a really good one. Oh, one of my favorites. This is the first time I've heard this, from P.S. Guardian. It was on our walking stick flute video that he commented, "The Bob Ross of woodworking, another great installment." I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate such a nice thing that somebody could say. I mean, I have never even thought about Bob Ross before, and then, I'm just kidding. You know that's a joke. But it is really greatly appreciated, and I mean, it's quite an honor to compare me with one of the greats. So, I mean, he did paint the universe. Anyway, here's another good question. Let's see. Pete H. is another general inquiry. And he said, when making a flute from bamboo, is the flute supposed to be hollow from one end to the other? In other words, the mouthpiece to the other end, or is there supposed to be a stop block of some kind under the sound chamber? When I see you making the sound chamber in the river cane, I never see if the tube is completely hollow. However, the wood flutes you make have 2 chambers divided by a sound chamber. Well, that's an excellent question, and I've got both answers here with me. This is a river cane flute. It's a 4-hole flute. One of my favorites. One of my own personal ones here. And if I can physically slide this thing off, gosh, is it tight. I like to keep them on there really tight for a reason, by the way. If you don't, let's just untie it. It'll probably be easier that way. I don't think I've untied this guy in a while. This one, as you probably can tell, is not hollow all the way through. It's hollow from the bottom of the flute all the way up to this link here under the block. And I'm going to use my fancy dancy pointing tool. I always use this guy. The block, the plug underneath of it is a natural partition in the river cane. And I have it stopping right at the back side, that's this side of the sound hole. This bottom one, square one here, is the sound hole. This is the air supply hole. In this particular flute, there's a little bit of a blank space under here, but it varies from flute to flute, river cane to river cane, and if they're made out of wood, that's whatever size you've made it. So when I blow through here, the air comes out this piece here, and then it goes across that. So there is a partition in there, a natural one, that we use to make the flute play. And likewise, this being a North American Indian, quote-unquote, Native American flute, and I put quote-unquote because there's so many kinds of Native American flutes. I mean, it's usually what time period and where from is my answer to all of those questions. But there is a plug in there that makes it work right. We do have several videos on how that operates. And I said there were two answers. This is a Kina. This is a Kina that you can see all the way through. It is hollow, and there are also rim-blown flutes and side-blown flutes that don't have partitions in the middle somewhere. There are so many different kinds of flutes. However, Native American flutes, typically you have an end-blown or a rim-blown flute is what they call. And then this Kina has a nice little notch in here. They, I think sometime in the 50s or 60s, started calling it a notch-blown flute. However, it is a rim-blown flute of sorts. You'll find some people call the Anasazi flutes, which are basically how flutes were made otherwise throughout the continents, the Americas. Those type of flutes are a rim-blown flute that don't have a notch. The notch actually helps, and my notch, just to give you a reference on this particular Kina, is a little bigger than the ones that we sell because my embouchure allows me to play this thing incredibly loud. Our Kinas that we sell are very loud. However, for me, having played for a little while, it makes it much easier to play with a larger notch, so it's kind of customized. Having said that though, hollow all the way through on a Kina, and you put your mouth like this. And you blow across it with your mouth. So that's kind of a neat guy. Going on to the next question here, and I'm sure it's a good one. Ali H. On our flute care video. Was a very helpful video, thank you. I do have a question for you. I was told when I oil my flute, I shouldn't oil the totem. And the totem is usually like a little animal-shaped guy that sits on top of here. However, on this flute, it's just a little reed. So he says, I was told I shouldn't oil the totem or the flute block because the bottom is left bare for a reason, so it can absorb moisture. Is that true? That's a fantastic question and a very, very good question. In my experience of making flutes, I can tell you that there are people who believe that leaving it dry helps it absorb moisture, thereby making the flute itself more or less prone rather to build up underneath of the track area and the block and everything, causing it to play, I guess, wet is what people call it today as a terminology. And that's a good idea. Other people believe that if you oil it or wax it, that the moisture will blow through. And the one thing I can tell you for absolutely certain, quoting my dad, is 6 of one and half a dozen of another. What that means is it could be this way sometimes and it could be that way sometimes. A lot of flutes wet out whenever they have a small air passageway. However, and we should probably make a video specific to this, the biggest reason that flutes wet out has to do with where the air's coming from. It's the person in general. I have met people who have a very dry mouth that can play a flute all day long and it never go wet. Myself, I guess I'm probably in the middle of too wet and too dry. And I'm sure there's ways if you think about it. Say for example, if you were drinking something that caused you to salivate, like chicken soup, for example, would probably make you salivate. If you were drinking chicken soup or eating chicken soup, it would make you produce more moisture when you play the flute than it would if you just hadn't eaten anything all day. So that's one consideration. Another thing is how you open your mouth when you play. A lot of you notice that I play like that. Some people want to put the flute over their entire mouth, or they'll open their mouth really large. Opening your mouth larger causes a trigger of your salivary glands to start really producing, or maybe the glands in your mouth which produce bile. I mean, I'm sure there's some doctors out there that are correcting me, but if you open your mouth too large, you start producing more saliva, thereby producing more moisture to go through the flute. So if you play with maybe a smaller like that, you may not produce as much. And one other thing that really helps is breathing and watching how you breathe. If you notice breathing through your nose is not as effective for you as breathing through your mouth, or vice versa, go the other way. For me, if I breathe through my mouth, I feel kind of, I guess, uncomfortable. However, it does dry your mouth out. So, once again, it's one of these things you have to practice at. But as far as the oil goes, I'm one of the people that I oil everything, including the block, and I oil the track area, and it usually doesn't have so much oil that it sounds bubbly when I play it. After you blow through it for a while, there's going to be a level that you reach, kind of a buoyancy point, where you've blown so much moisture or air through it that the oil's pretty much gone. So it's once again 6 of one and half a dozen of another. You should try it and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, you can always dry it back out. It's not difficult. So, and then finally, our last question, our last comment here I wanted to read, and it's fantastic. Norwest Nord on the walking stick flute video. You talk too much. Well, you got me. I do. And I could probably go on and on about that wonderful comment, which is perfectly fine and a great point of fact. And you know, there's so many things that you've got on your mind, and oh my gosh, and there's so many different ways to see things, and you know, wann verstanden Sie? O cuando tú hablas en otra lengua? Or if you are thinking about something in a different way from the perspective of a flute maker, you may want to be a little bit more elaborate with how you say things. And our language, the English language, born of trade in its Latin root origins from Europe, the trade language that we have has so many fantastic comments about buying things and selling things, and I'm thinking in Chinese right now because that's where I learned how to argue money. My Chinese teacher was fantastic about teaching us the language of money and how to argue it. Price, because some people feel insulted if you don't say, you know, I really want to pay you less than that. That's just the way things are. However, like I say, I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that comment, and that I told you, you know, I mean, gosh, we all have a lot of things on our mind. Some of us can see things more clearly than others, and some of us may see beyond the things that are clear and may see into questionable areas and start talking about things like that. So, good comment though, and I do appreciate you. No bad feelings whatsoever. It actually helps me stay in line sometimes. I think about you guys. You're not the only one. Like I said, prattle at the beginning of the video. And I could just go on and 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 on. So, anyway, once again, thank you so very much for watching our videos. This is Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out. That's all we have time for today. And we'll come back and read some more comments later on. I know there's lots of questions people have. We hope to see you here on YouTube again very soon, and happy flute playing.